If the Lakers win over the Clippers showed us anything last night, it's that they're a very deep team and simply not giving enough credit for it if you ask me. I mean, even while playing without both Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura, not only 2 starters to their team, but 2 guys accounting for nearly 40 points per game in their past 15 games now, they're obviously a big part of what they do and really on both ends of the court. Whether you're talking about scoring for them, playmaking, isolation, even defense, a big part of what they do and what they're trying to do on the court. Minus those 2, then factor in a guy like Jordan Goodwin, only a 2-way contract for their team, but definitely a big part of their bench unit and definitely their defense as well. Then add in the fact that LeBron had a rare off night, only 17 points on 35% shooting for the field and 8 turnovers with it, and yet, they still came out with a win against an arguably top 10 team in the entire league, or at the bare minimum a top 5 defense, and were largely able to do it behind their depth. Yes, Luka Doncic did play and played fairly well at that, but let's not forget about the guys that stepped up minus Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura and Jordan Goodwin, along with LeBron having a rare off night. Guys off the bench like Dalton Knecht, Jared Vanderbilt, or in their starting lineup like Jackson Hayes, definitely have not gotten enough credit, not only last night, but really throughout their past 10 to 20 games now. So with that in mind here, we're going to talk about it. Talk about the impact they made on offense, defense, and simply on the court in general, the identity they've helped this team build, and why they might be one of the deepest teams and have one of the best bench units or simply depth in the entire league at this point. And well, to begin, I think their game last night was a pretty good representation of it. Again, being without guys like Rui Hachimura and Austin Reeves definitely did leave a dent in their rotation, and to make up for it, other guys had to fill in for them that really hadn't played much lately. Guys like Dalton Knecht and Shake Milton, both of which have been in and out of the rotation lately and definitely not been called on that much, and yet they stepped up and filled in pretty nicely for them. For Dalton Knecht, definitely made an impact last night, having 14 points by halftime, leading their team, initially going 3 of 3 from beyond the arc, including a really nice step back 3-point shot over Amir Coffey here, another one assisted by Luka Doncic, a corner catch and shoot 3-point shot that he did not even have to dip to shoot it, simply caught it and let it fly, all around being a great fit offensively. They drew up a few plays for him and even let him isolate a few times again. Then defensively, locked in and played pretty good defense, had 2 steals to go with it, 4 rebounds, and definitely showing that he can make an impact on both ends of the court. People have been down on him lately, saying that they should have traded him for Mark Williams and went through with the trade even with the injury risk or whatever it might be in that trade. And well, Dalton Knecht responded to that, playing well last night, showing that he does belong in the rotation and definitely does have untapped potential. But then even for a guy like Shake Milton, not asked to play very much to their team, but came off the bench last night after a few games not in the rotation, knocked down a couple 3-point shots on perfect 3-point shooting, showing why he can be a decent 12th to 13th man for them and can fill in when other guys are hurt. Or then for Trey Jemison, a 2-way contract for their team and actually playing not only last night but in their prior game against the LA Clippers too, playing about 22 minutes in that game, 18 minutes in their game last night, matching the physicality of a guy like Ivica Zubac, playing some good defense, grabbing rebounds, and definitely being a part of their new bench mob, bringing a ton of energy and kind of bringing that dog mentality off the bench. He's definitely been a part of that. Or then for a bigger part of that being Jared Vanderbilt, the definition of a spark plug and pretty much the definition of energy off the bench for them. Coming off the bench last night, playing great defense, being an absolute pest on guys like James Harden and Kawhi Leonard, or even blocking the shot of Zubac a couple of times, having 9 rebounds to go with it, 5 of which being offensive rebounds, all around being the hustle and energy guy they need off the bench, and that's what Jared Vanderbilt does for them. And hey, you can even point to him in the stat sheet in this one too. Not only the 9 rebounds, but then 8 points to go with it, a couple of nice finishes around the rim, and despite not making a 3-point shot, has made 3 of them in their past 4 games now, and showing that he's not a liability on offense completely. Or then for a guy like Dorian Finney-Smith, entering their starting lineup last night in place of Rui Hachimura, and well, go figure, once again they led their team in plus-minus rating. I don't love the plus-minus rating as an individual stat, or at least not for individual games, but when you lead a team as often as Dorian Finney-Smith does, it's pretty darn telling. I mean, in their past 10 games now, Dorian Finney-Smith has led their team in plus-minus 9 times, and in that 10-game time frame, having a plus 81 rating, 20 points higher than anybody on their entire team. And that's with him even struggling from the 3-point line, going about 32% from 3 in that time frame, and yet still finding a way to make an impact, and whether you're talking about defense, rebounding, simply vocalness, and telling teammates where to be on the court and where he's going on the court, definitely one of the best role players in their team, if not the best role player. Then after Finney Smith, gotta show some love to Jackson Hayes. You know, he might not be Anthony Davis, but definitely playing really well in place of Anthony Davis. Obviously can't be that elite last line defense like AD was for their team, but has played very well for their team and has kept their defensive versatility at the 5 intact post Anthony Davis. One play in particular showed that last night, getting switch onto James Harden, and Harden thought he'd have an easy matchup here, attacking the isolation and doing his patented step back into a 3-point shot. Thought he could get over Hayes, but Hayes contested it really well, forcing a miss here and showing off his defensive versatility while doing it. I'm not sure why, but there's still plenty of fans saying that we need a center, Jackson Hayes isn't good enough, and they simply want to replace him and think he's not playing well, and they obviously have not been watching Hayes play. Playing very well, and not only for a backup center, but truly a starting level center in their past 15 to 20 games now, playing great defensively, being a great fit and not trying to do too much offensively, and simply bringing that great energy on the court for their team as well. Or even after them, I could still go on talking about guys like Gabe Vincent, playing very well for their team and on both ends of the court. No, not only a 5 to 10 game sample like many fans tend to act like, for about 25 to 30 games at this point, playing very well on defense, great point of attack defense to their team, shooting very well and actually one of the best 3-point shooters in their team in that time frame, all around making an impact and definitely a great depth piece to their team. Or then even for guys that don't play or haven't played yet, they have a guy like Maxi Kleber who might be able to make it back this season, could and likely would be a rotational player for them. A guy like Cam Reddish who definitely can be good on defense despite being very unreliable offensively. That's another player that probably would be in a bunch of other teams' rotation. And simply all around having plenty of depth and a lot of unrecognized depth at that. And I know we talk a lot about their defense and how good it's been for quite some time now. Dating back to January 15th, a 22 game sample at this point, they've been the best defense in the entire league, and that's a pretty good representation. But if you ask me, their bench unit's simply not gotten enough credit for it. In that 22 game sample, their bench unit's been the 4th best defense, while their starting lineup has been the 10th best defense. Both pretty good, and yes, they do combine for the best defense overall, but in reality, their bench unit's been pulling more weight on defense compared to their starting lineup. During that time frame, their bench units held opponents only 42.5% field goal shooting, the best in the entire league, only 31.2% 3-point shooting, top 4 in the entire league, 5.5 turnovers per game, and that's top 10, despite playing the 11th fewest minutes per game of any bench unit, and all around are making a great impact on defense and definitely are showing it lately too. And going back to their depth, not their bench unit, but simply their depth in general, it's so insane to me that they can play and win against a top 10 opponent, even without Rui Hachimura and Austin Reaves, and not miss that much of a beat without them. Now, don't get me wrong, they obviously missed them and couldn't do certain things without them on the court, one of which being their bigger small ball lineup with Hachimura at the 4 or 5. That's worked out really well for them and a big part of their defensive versatility. Or offensively without both of them, but really Austin Reaves in particular. Can't do a bunch of offensive sets without him, and definitely a big part of their offense. Again, about 21 points per game in their past 15 games now, and that's a big chunk for them. Obviously, yes, they miss them, but the fact they don't look that different and have so many guys that can step up and fill in for them and kind of partially fill that role, simply fill in the gaps and make their team work even without those guys in the court. It's so impressive to me and very telling about the depth this Laker team has, despite not being talked about much and not given nearly enough credit if you ask me. And with that being said, what do you guys think? How do you feel about the Lakers' depth, what it's shown lately, both offensively and defensively, and what stood out to you about the most about it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one, and if you enjoyed the video, then I'll greatly appreciate it if you dropped a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day or night.